On today's video, we're going to be talking about how quickly do you lose fitness, whether you're forced to take 2 or 3 days off because of injury, or possibly even a week. Maybe you're going away on vacation for a few weeks. How much fitness do you actually lose if you aren't able to train the way you have been training? My name is Brad, I'm from CoachParry.com, and this is episode 3 of The Comeback. If you'd like to watch episode 1 and 2 to get the backstory of what I'm up to in my comeback marathon later this year, you can click on the link that's on screen right now. The reason we're asking this question today is because I'm currently on vacation with my family in my favorite place in the world, the Kruger National Park. It's been absolutely amazing. We've done over 1,000 miles of road tripping through the wildest of Africa. We've seen some amazing sightings, elephants, lion, leopard, you name it. It has been absolutely phenomenal. And you may notice the electric fence behind me. We're staying in some pretty wild rest camps, which means I haven't been able to train because you're not allowed to run out there. So pretty much taken 2 weeks off. It's been phenomenal, but I am worried that it's putting my goal in October in jeopardy. So I got Shona and Devlin to dive into the science a little bit about how much fitness you actually lose if you are forced to take some time off. Shona's going to talk about the first 2 weeks. Devlin will then talk about slightly longer and how you can actually mitigate losing fitness over a prolonged period of time of inactivity. And then Shona will talk us through what it takes to come back. Do you just pick up where you left off and hope for the best, or is there a way to return to play? That's all coming up in this video.
So we often get asked the question, let's say someone's going away for a couple of days or they're traveling for work or whatever the case is, how much fitness are you going to be losing within those 2 or 3 days or that first kind of week? And really it's negligible. There's very little loss in overall fitness that you're going to lose in those first couple of days. We don't really realize it, but we are not completely sedentary, not just lying down doing absolutely nothing. You're probably still walking around, commuting, doing what you need to do, so that the body is still moving, and so as a result we don't lose as much fitness in those first couple of days. So taking a day or two off, missing a session or two is not the end of the world at all. If that extends, perhaps into a little bit longer, so some people, let's say you're going on a skiing trip or something for 2 weeks, again, you're not going to be losing massive amounts of fitness over those first week or two, and especially in an example like a skiing trip, you're generally going to be pretty active. Or if you're going to a nice island and you're swimming, you're still going to be doing some activity that is not going to cause you to lose fitness over those first week or two.
So Shona's discussed those first 2 weeks and how those first 2 weeks are actually still quite alright with having missed training. It is usually from about week 3 onwards where we start to see more of a decline in your fitness or your form. Now, with that, or the rate rather at which your detraining effect takes place, is dependent on a couple of things. Age is one of them. Your genetics does play a role. Unfortunately, we can never get away from that. But your training age as well is a very important one. And what I mean by training age is how much training and for how long have you been training before that injury kicks in or you go on leave. So the training age, and then also what kind of specific work have you been doing before your layoff. So all those factors really do play a role in the rate at which we detrain. Then what is more importantly, keep in mind, so detraining, as we've discussed, happens as a result of no training stimulus. So whether you have been laid off with injury or on leave, if you're unable to do anything, so complete bed rest or complete inactivity, generally starts with quite a steep decline from about week 3 onwards in terms of physiological responses or physiological adaptation that you would have had, as well as strength decline. There is a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, if you'd like. If you are able, and there's science to back this, if you are able to do as little as 20% of your usual training volume, you can decrease that decline or the detraining effect by up to 50%. Again, I'm going to repeat that because that's huge. 20% of your current training will reduce your detraining effect by up to 50%, which means it prolongs that decrease in your fitness. So when you do return to training, whether it is from leave or from an injury, you're not starting off at complete zero again. That detraining effect, or what you're doing in that 20%, however, is quite specific. So it comes down to, again, the specificity of training. So doing the right kind of work, whether it's strength work, whether it's cardiovascular endurance type work, as well as the amount and how much you're allowed to do. We often we're talking about an injury, you might be sidelined with an injury. There are still ways to work around that. You might still be able to do some form of strength training. You might still be able to do some cross training. So if you can't run, you might be able to swim, you might be able to cycle. And it's those modalities that we can still incorporate into your training to make up that 20%, possibly 30%, depending on the severity of the injury or how much access you have to training when you are away on holiday. So whether it's walking, going hiking, maybe trying something different, or a different sport for that matter. You can still do a small amount of pretty specific work, training smart, that will decrease that detraining effect and make sure you're not starting from rock bottom when you do return to training.
The trick also comes into it is that people often try and play catch up. So, I'm going to miss 1 or 2 sessions from traveling or whatever the case is, and then they try and catch that session up later on in the week. And that is actually probably more dangerous than really missing a session or two. So we don't want to play catch up. If you're going to be pushing everything, all squeezing into 1 week, that's not going to be advisable at all. It's going to put you at a high risk of injury. And so you're better off just rather leaving that session and following your program as scheduled by just leaving that one session out. So how to get back to running after you've taken a little bit of a break, your return to play, essentially your return to running. The key part here is that we don't just want to jump straight back into our plan where we kind of left off, or where our plan is now. That is really, really important. We have to ensure that there's a slow, progressive return to our running. This will obviously depend greatly on how much time you took off, on your activity before you took off, and whether it was an injury, an illness, or even just a vacation. As Dev mentioned, all of those factors are going to play a massive role in how we return you to running. For the most part though, a general kind of rule that we would like to use is number one, no intensity work for the first week or two at least, again depending on why you were taking time off. But definitely in terms of building your volume, I would suggest starting at about 50% of the volume and then slowly just monitor how you're feeling from there, going up into 75% of the volume and then up into around 100% of the volume. And again, all of those factors, it's not just going 50, 75, 100, but really taking into account how you're feeling, not rushing straight back in 50%, the next day 75, the next day 100, but really giving yourself a good week or two to get back into the volume overall.
I hope you got a ton of value out of this. If you did enjoy it, please do hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well so you don't miss any updates of my comeback to the Cape Town Marathon in October. And also be sure to check out some of our other videos that are on screen now.